I'd driven 1,700 miles for another farmer and another barn. The Midwest stretched out like God's abandoned parking lot. Corn, silos, 1,000 shades of nothing. My editor at the Stranger Times, Mary Clatch, had the assignment waiting in my inbox with her trademark enthusiasm. Farmer says aliens crashed in his barn. Get photos. Make it weird.
Making it weird was never the problem. Making it believable, that was the trick. My name is Peter Certendirk. Well, not really. That's just the byline I use for this kind of work. Ever since I can remember, I've wanted to be an investigative journalist, writing stories that matter, uncovering fraud and corruption. But until that happens, I do this crap. Chasing down random whack jobs who think they're Elvis, interviewing people who swear Bigfoot stole their barbecue grill, and documenting every half-baked conspiracy theory that lands in Mary's inbox. It pays the bills. Barely.
The cellar smelled like ammonia and something worse, something organic rotting in the dark. Caleb pulled a chain and a single bulb swung to life. The swaying light illuminated the two figures lying on a workbench, covered in old sheets. He peeled back the fabric. They were small, maybe 4 feet tall. Gray-green skin with a rubbery texture, oversized heads, black eyes like oil spills. The stench hit me hard. I expected props, Halloween store rejects, but these looked disturbingly real. The detail was insane. Veins beneath translucent skin, joints that bent at unnatural angles, fingers too long and delicate. I snapped photos, hands shaking. "Caleb, where did you get these?" "Didn't get 'em. They came with the ship." He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "They'll come back for 'em, Peter. I buried that saucer in hay, but they'll sniff it out. You'll see." We returned to the barn, and Caleb walked off to tend to farm chores. I found a ladder and flashlight, determined to find the seam, the zipper, the hallmark stamp, the gotcha that always revealed itself if you looked hard enough. I found it, or at least I thought I did. Inside a panel, wires hung in odd configurations connected to components I didn't recognize. Something resembling a circuit board was attached to the interior wall, with strange symbols etched around the edges. The hull looked like scrap metal welded together, dented chrome, crude seams, exactly like something from a prop house. "Caleb," I climbed down, dusting off my jeans, "you're being pranked. This looks like prop department garbage. Some film students from the community college probably have too much time on their hands, and they're waiting for you to humiliate yourself on the evening news." His face went hard. "You calling me a liar? I'm calling you a victim. There's a difference." He turned and walked out, shoulders tight with anger. I spent the afternoon in town doing what I do best, asking questions nobody wants to hear. The waitress at Harlan's Diner rolled her eyes when I mentioned Caleb's name. "He's been seeing little green men for decades. Last year it was Bigfoot in his corn. Year before that, goblins ate his chickens. Caleb's harmless, but he's got an imagination the size of Kansas." The hardware store clerk had a different take. "My dog won't set foot on his land, not since Tuesday. Went hunting over the weekend and had to give it up because of my damn dog. Started shaking and whining. As not all, and I seen lights over the Strickland place. Not normal lights, weird silent ones." I spoke to several more townies, with each giving me pretty much the same story. It was exhausting. Driving back to my motel was when I first noticed the black helicopter on the horizon, tracking low over the fields. It followed me for 2 miles before veering off toward the state line. Probably just a traffic chopper. Probably. That night, paranoia crept in like fog. Around 2 in the morning, I heard something outside, footsteps and scuffling, but when I checked, the parking lot was empty. In the morning, I saw the dust on my car's hood was disturbed. Handprints streaked where I hadn't touched. Then I saw the glove
I returned to Caleb's barn the next day, my skepticism wavering. "Caleb, let me take another look at that thing." He nodded and led me inside. We stood there in the dim light, staring at the saucer under its tarp. Then it happened. A low hum filled the barn, rising from somewhere deep inside the craft. Lights flickered behind the hull panels, amber, then blue, then something I don't have a name for. The air vibrated, making my teeth ache. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking. "Come on, come on!" The humming stopped. The lights went dark, total silence. 5 seconds, maybe 6, that's all it lasted. "You saw that?" I breathed, staring at Caleb. "Heard it too. I told you, it's waiting." I pulled out my phone, camera ready, and we waited. An hour passed, then another, nothing. The saucer sat there like a prop in a warehouse, lifeless and fake. Finally, I gave up and drove back into town, my mind churning. I pulled into the diner's parking lot. It was the only place open this time of night. I needed something to eat and a quiet place to think. The sheriff slid next to me at the counter. Big man, slow drawl, eyes that had seen too many idiots come through town. He ordered himself a coffee, which suggested he wanted a long conversation. In my experience, a long conversation with law enforcement was always more like an interrogation. He waited a moment before speaking. "Quit egging Caleb on. He's harmless. But you're making trouble. Nobody likes trouble." I knew this was coming. I let out a sigh. "I'm just reporting. You're making him worse." He leaned in close. "Pack up, move on. You should maybe find something else to write about." He took a sip of his black coffee and made a face. "That's not a suggestion." His eyes flicked to mine without him turning his head. I passed the sugar dispenser toward him. "Can I finish eating first?" He didn't answer. He just poured his coffee into a to-go cup and headed out. I felt the town turning against me, the way small towns do when outsiders stir the pot. I decided to cut my losses, another story that collapsed under scrutiny, another week wasted chasing shadows.
It was late when I started out of town. Past 11, maybe closer to midnight. I knew it was smarter to wait until morning to hit the road, but I wanted to get out before anything more happened to me. I was driving between fields of grain and corn along the empty and dark rural highway that connected to the interstate when I saw the lights in the sky. Not normal lights. Silent ones. Moving. I pulled off onto the shoulder and watched. Through the windshield, I could see the lights scan the terrain below with some kind of sparkling blue spotlight beam sweeping methodically across the fields. I didn't linger long before making a decision. I gunned the engine and turned off the highway, the grill of my car slapping down corn stalks as I carved through the field. My phone rattled loose from its windshield mount and tumbled to the floor. I reached for it, fingers stretching, but following the lights while fumbling in the dark was impossible. I gave up and focused on the sky, hands gripping the wheel. The lights led me back to Caleb's farm. I killed the engine and stumbled out, camera clutched in one hand. Light poured through the barn slats like all hell itself was trying to escape. For a second, I thought the damn barn had caught on fire. Then the rumbling started, followed by the earth shaking beneath my feet. I had to get closer, had to see if this was real or just some elaborate light show orchestrated by the same pranksters who'd fabricated the saucer and corpses. Some kind of projection, lasers, special effects. There had to be an explanation. I moved through the corn toward the barn. The rumbling grew louder with each step, a deep thrumming that vibrated in my chest, 20 feet away, then 10. Through the gaps in the barn walls, I could see them. Shapes moving inside the light. Tall, impossibly thin, gliding like smoke given form. The UFO I had chased silently descended, massive and dark, and hovered above the barn. I reached for the barn door, but stopped in my tracks.
My feet, as though commanded by pure survival instincts, began to move my body away. The sight that triggered my retreat were the two aliens that emerged from the root cellar. Each carried one of the corpses, cradled like broken children. They had come back for their friends. Once clear of the root cellar entrance, the blue spotlight beam returned from above, scanning the visitors. They seemed to slowly disappear, dissolving upward like some kind of cheesy sci-fi effect from a 60s TV show. Pixels of light rising into the craft. Nothing I was witnessing made a bit of sense. Then the crashed saucer inside roared to life, exploding through the roof in a shower of wood and light. Debris rained down, shattered planks, twisted metal, fragments of shingles spinning through the air. I stumbled backward, shielding my face as a beam crashed into the dirt near my feet. I retreated to a safer distance, heart pounding, as the saucer ascended to meet the larger craft. Both vanished into the night sky without a sound. Caleb collapsed in the field. I snapped photo after photo, hands steady for the first time in days. Later, in my motel room, I reviewed the images. They looked laughably fake. Rubber aliens, a cheesy saucer, and useless streaks of light. The kind of thing you'd see in a supermarket tabloid next to Elvis found on Mars. I emailed my story and photos to the Stranger Times anyway. Mary printed them under the headline, "Saucer crashes in field, just like Superman." Perfect fodder. People would laugh, click, share, forget. But I saved my real notes, my eyewitness account, every detail, in a file labeled Grandma's Recipes. Hidden. Safe. I knew the truth. That was enough.